Hey guys, so Lord here, back again with another review, and today we'll be taking a look at the Hasbro Marvel Legends Spider-Man Retro Series fan channel exclusive, Rhino. And before we get into it here, let's first take a look-see at both the front and the back of the packaging. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now before we get into the meat and taters of this review, Rhino does come with a pair of grip hands. And if we bring in our friendly neighborhood symbiote slash black costume Spider-Man, you can see that he can actually grip onto poor Peter Parker's leg there and dangle him upside down like the big bully he is. Putting that off to the side here. Rhino also comes with an alternate head that looks a little bit less pissed off, but still not happy to be here. He is very, very frumpy today. But that is it as far as accessories go. And for Rhino, I don't think you can really do much better than that, other than maybe some different expressions and maybe some relaxed hands, but I'm not going to be too critical of that because this is one of the very few Marvel Legends I've actually bought in a very long time. For those of you who may not remember, the last Marvel Legends I reviewed, I think, was Baron Zemo, the Walgreens exclusive, which was, I want to say, 2 months ago. And since we are celebrating the 60th anniversary of good old webhead Spider-Man himself, feel bad for not putting out more Spider-Man related videos, so here you go, and for lack of a better term, here we are. So taking a closer look at the Rhino here, for those of you who don't remember, back in 2016 this guy was a Build-A-Figure with shoulder pads and way better paint. I don't think this is terrible for Marvel Legends standards, which is kinda eh. But the Build-A-Figure was significantly better. It was a darker shade of gray with really nice, I want to say it was a wash. But the head sculpts were kind of meh. He came with one where he's just screaming his ass off, and then he came with another one that kind of looked like a Batman cowl. But it's Rhino, and I'm sorry, but nobody rocks the Batman cowl look better than Batman, so step out the way, Rhino. That said, I will say the head sculpts that come with this figure are significantly better. You just can't use them with that older release because the grays do not match. They're not even the same shade, let alone painted the same. So with that being said, he also doesn't have the little peg holes in the shoulders from the shoulder pads. So I appreciate that Hasbro took the time to retool the shoulders, unlike the PulseCon Venom where they just left the Omega Red Warpath shoulder pauldron holes in the traps here. So I do appreciate that they took the time to give us some quote-unquote new shoulders. That said, as far as articulation on this figure goes, his head can rotate side to side. It can look up a little bit, actually pretty far, so you can get him in some good charging poses. You can look down. And while I'm not crazy about this neck joint, for Rhino, it's alright. It kind of works with the sculpt, the way it sits in here. It looks a little bit better than the McFarlane Toys Batman figures that have a neck like this. That said, the shoulders go out to the side, which I don't know if that's any better than when he had the shoulder pads, to be honest with you. It looks about the same to me. Maybe it's a little bit better, but I could be wrong. They do rotate all the way around. It's got a bicep swivel. Single jointed elbow there. Nice and crunchy. Swivel at the wrist with a hinge. And for those of you wondering, the wrists are easy enough to swap out. Just takes a little bit of elbow grease to get them back in there. But there you go. This side's a little looser than this side, but it's whatever. I don't care. Not that big a deal. Ab crunch. This is where the figure is improved significantly compared to the original release, who had kind of the wobbly ab crunch that your boy's not a fan of. This guy, it's nice and tight, and it doesn't have that neutral flop going on. He can't crunch back, mind you. He can crunch forward like once. But for Rhino, I don't really know how much you really need. It's got a waist swivel. That works pretty well. Get this out of the way. His hips kick out to the side. They kick back down. They kick forward and back. Now, this was just on mine. I'm not sure if this is going to be a thing with all of them. But I had to put some soap in these hips to kind of loosen them up a bit. And I'm glad I did, because they were really, really stiff when I opened them. And while I don't typically have a problem with that, I did not want to break the barbell joint in there. So I put some soap in there. The legs work fine though. It's not tugging on that joint, so I'm okay with that. It's got a thigh cut. Both sides, it's pretty tight. It's not bad. Single jointed knee. Nice and crunchy. Looks kind of ugly though. It's got the big knee flap on the front there, but not really sure how you're supposed to cut that to not make it look ugly. I mean, I'm sure there is a way, I just don't know how. It's got a hinge in the foot with a rocker and peg holes at the bottom of the feet, but it's Rhino. He's going to stand just fine. Much better than most Legends, I assure you. So that is it for Rhino, for the most part. Of course, we're going to look at some comparisons, but really awesome figure. If you got 40 bucks and you missed out on the Build-A-Figure Rhino, this is, I think, a little bit better in a couple different ways. First and foremost, it's a lot tighter because it's new. And I know that's not always the case with new Legends. I mean, case in point, the Sleepwalker and even Baron Zemo had its issues. But all things considered, for a Marvel Legends reissue, I think this is one of the better ones. I think this is perfectly serviceable for a Rhino figure if you are in need of one for your Legends collection, and I'm pretty happy to have him, along with the Build-A-Figure, mostly because I'm a sucker, and when it comes to Marvel Legends, I buy almost anything Spider-Man. So, yes, I will be doing reviews of the 60th Anniversary Collection when I do finally get it, but yeah, pretty stoked about this figure. One of my favorite Legends of the year, even though it is technically just a reissued Build-A-Figure. So, with that being said, let's now move on and take a look at some size comparisons. First up, here's our Retro Card Series Rhino next to his Build-A-Figure counterpart doing his best Tom Araya impression, as well as the Retro Card Series Symbiote / Black Costume Spider-Man, which of course uses the Retro Spider-Man body and is pretty much getting pushed out of frame by these two big Rhino figures here. And while I do have to agree that the Build-A-Figure has the nicer paint scheme on it, I do kind of prefer this new Retro Card one. I don't know what it is, but the light gray is just doing something for me. And last, but certainly not least, we have our two regulars, the Mythical Legions, Brother Mandibulus, and Living Spawn, who's not towering over everyone today, because while good old Rhino here is, in fact, a reissue, he is a reissue of a Build-A-Figure after all. So, with that being said, time to wrap things up. Some final thoughts. Overall, and even though this is just a reissue of a Build-A-Figure, I gotta be 110% honest with you guys. It is a damn good re-release of a Build-A-Figure, and I think I figured out why I prefer this one to the Build-A-Figure, and it mostly goes back to my love for the Spider-Man animated series. Rhino was a lighter shade of gray in that cartoon that I used to watch a crapload as a kid, so that's why I'm gravitating a little bit more towards this reissue than the original Build-A-Figure, even though I will say I do prefer the paint job on that one to this one. Well, this one ain't bad. Build-A-Figure is just a little bit better in my opinion, but at the end of the day, you do get extra hands and, in my opinion, better head sculpts with this one, and it's not going to cost you nearly as much as that old Build-A-Figure. So if you are looking for a Rhino to add to your Spider-Man Rogues Gallery or a Marvel Legends collection in general, then I highly recommend you pick this guy up, because for 40 bucks, you could do a hell of a lot worse nowadays. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you are so inclined, please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you know whenever I upload more reviews like this one. If you haven't already, please hit me up on Instagram at Overlord Productions. But as always, keep the comments civil, because the world sucks enough as it is, especially when I don't review as much Marvel Legends as I used to, because, well, majority of them suck now. So with that being said, until next time, I'll catch you guys later.